What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to another Swift video. In today's video, as you can see, we're going to be talking about localizing and translating your app for different languages. So as you can see here, we're on the Apple developer website for localization, and unlike other typical documentation pages, this is a whole full-blown page. So right off the bat, you can see the importance that Apple places on having your apps be localized. So I don't need to tell any of you, most of you probably already know, the more languages your app is available in, the better it is for user acquisition, the more downloads, more revenue, all that good stuff, more of you'll be making. So we'll take a look at how to set this up, some good practices, and kind of the ins and outs and the steps that need to be taken to get your app working in other languages. So that said, as always, make sure you absolutely destroy that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. If you're a consistent returning viewer and have been enjoying the content, hit subscribe while you're at it. Get Xcode ready, get excited. Let's dig into some localization. Quick pause before we get into the video. If you haven't seen it already, I am hard at work putting together iOSacademy.io, a community where all of us iOS engineers can come together, learn how to build some of the top apps like Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, in addition to interview prep to land some of these iOS roles at top tech companies. So if you're interested in the free and premium content to come, head on over to iOSacademy.io and enter your email address in the waitlist form, and you will be notified as content becomes available. That said, let's get into the video. All right, so we're going to begin by opening up Xcode and creating a new project. We'll stick with our app template here, and I'm going to go ahead and call this project multiple languages. And make sure your language is Swift, lifecycle is UIKit, and interface is storyboard. Go ahead and continue. We'll save it to the desktop. And before we get into any of the code, let's go ahead and pick a view controller, rather a simulator from up here before we get into the view controller, and hit that run button to get it booted up into our simulator over here. Hopefully that doesn't take too long. And let me expand my Xcode window, and let's get into our view controller where we will be adding some code momentarily. There's our empty app. Awesome. So first and foremost, we want to add a label in here that's going to show some text, and then we're going to talk about how to actually pass in the localized version, and then more importantly, how to add different translations of your strings in your application. So we're going to create a pretty basic label called my label. It'll be a UI label, and essentially we're just going to create a label here like this. We're going to say the label's text is hello. We're going to say labels text alignment is centered. We're going to return the label, and let me also go ahead and bump up the label's font size. Any parentheses there. We're going to say labels.font is system font, and we're going to pass in a size and a weight. So we'll say 32, and let's do semi-bold. And let's go ahead and add this as a subview. So we're going to say view, add subview, my label. And we also want to give it a frame, of course. So we'll say the frame of this is the view's bounds. So the entirety of the view controller view. Go ahead and hit Command R to build and run. And you should see a label in the center right there, just like that. So cool. So the best approach, in my opinion, to allowing your labels and text across your app to be localized is by using a Swift extension. So we're going to extend the base string class, and we're going to add a function on here called localized, which will return a string. And of course, it's going to return the localized version of the string. And all you want to return is ns localized string, this one right here. And if we open up the constructor, you'll see, let's try that one more time. There's two variants of this. The first one just takes a key and a comment. The next one takes a key, table name, comment, rather bundle, as well as a value and a comment. So I'm going to go ahead and use this one. So the first one here, what I like to do is just pass in self. The table name will be the name of the strings file in which your translations exist. So we're going to call this localizable. Hopefully I spelled that right. The bundle will be your main app. The value, which is a default value that it will fall back to, presumably English, will be self again, and the comment will be self again. Now, keep in mind, self refers to the string being localized because we're extending the string class. So to use this, all you would do is you would append .localized onto any string you use across your app. So if you go ahead and hit Command R, you'll see that nothing actually changes here. It still says hello. So now we want to add the translations, but we also want to take a look at how do we test different languages in the simulator. So there's two ways you can do that. The obvious way is you can change your simulator system language, which is kind of a pain. So there's an easier way. You want to come up here to this dropdown, and you are going to, by default, have a check mark next to your primary application scheme. You're going to hit Edit Scheme, and you're going to want to come to Run over here and then Options. And in this list of options, you're going to see that there is a app language. So by default, it takes your system language, whatever you're working in. Let's go ahead and change this to, let's do Spanish. Go ahead and just close this out. Hit Command R to build and run, and you'll still see that it's showing hello, but our app is being run in Spanish. But why the heck is it showing hello? The reason is because the way this function works is if there isn't a translation available for that particular key, in this case we're using the string itself as the key, it'll default to this value, which is again self, which is just the English version. So now let's go ahead and add that translation. So we're going to first select our project up here. We're going to select in this left bar our project from this list, and you'll see there is a heading here for localization. We're going to hit this plus, and from this list, we're going to go ahead and find Spanish. Hopefully, let's see, let's just type it in. I'll jump to it. There it is. Passed it up here. So there's two versions of it. We're just going to pick the standard version. It's going to ask if you want to localize your interface files. So we're not going to do the launch image, but we will keep the storyboard, the main storyboard, since most probably you are going to want to do it. Go ahead and continue. And the first thing it basically went ahead and did is you'll see this arrow next to your main storyboard now. And whenever you add any strings on here, you can supply the translation of those strings here. And you can see it actually tells you in parentheses what language it's for, base being whatever your base language is. So in this case, English. But we don't necessarily want to always use the storyboard. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new file. And we're going to search for strings in this template. And we want to create a strings file. And we're going to go ahead and call this what we called it in the function. So localizable. Hopefully I spelled that right. Just double check that. Localizable.strings. And once you come to this file, on this right-hand panel, if you don't have it open it up. You want to come to, I believe, this first tab here. And let's see, you want to hit this button for localize. It's going to ask you, okay, do you want to localize it? What's the base language? We're going to stick with English. We're going to hit localize. And you'll see the Spanish is already in this list because we already set it up, but we just need to check it. And once you check it, let's actually get rid of all these comments. But once you check it, similarly to the storyboard, you'll have a drop-down menu you can open up here. And there's an English version and there's a Spanish version. Right now they're both empty, but we want to add strings to this. So we're going to add hello. Now keep in mind, this string refers to the key that is being used in our function, not the actual value itself. We're using the value as the key, but if I change this to 1, 2, 3, the key in our strings file should be 1, 2, 3. And now if you go ahead and run, you'll actually see an empty string, no string. And the reason is because the app basically found the Spanish file and it found the proper key, but we've assigned it to basically an empty string. So we're going to assign it to the Spanish translation. We're going to go ahead and run, and there you have it. There is the Spanish translation. So that's basically all there is to it in terms of how to get this set up. So just to recap, because there are a few steps involved. The first thing is create an extension off of string so you can easily localize every single string without having to do this redundant nonsense everywhere. The second thing is enable localization for all the languages you want to support. Obviously, there's tons of languages. I mean, if you want your app to be used, broadly across the world and larger markets and get more exposure, you absolutely should invest time and energy into translating your application. Once you do that, you want to translate either your main storyboard or your launch storyboard, your launch screen, and that'll give you the various files here for that. Keep in mind, you don't have to do this if you don't want to, translate your interface files, or if you don't have them. Then create this localizable.strings file and simply hit the localize option that was here and check off all the languages you want. If you take a note here, our English file is actually empty, but if we go back and change our scheme back to English, we actually can basically cut a corner there and not fill it out. And the reason we don't have to fill it out is because the base language that we are developing in is in fact English. So let's see, we're seeing hello again. So you could actually just leave this blank. And the reason that works appropriately is because, once again, we've said the default value to fall back to is self itself, right? In this case, which is our string. So that's how you would localize your application. And in terms of actually getting the languages and translations, which I know is going to be a comment, this is a pretty long-winded topic and deeper discussion to be had. But basically, for a very basic premise, I mean, Google Translate is your friend. There are services out there that are paid that are better because, like not every translation is one-to-one between different languages. There's different dialects and adjectives and verbs and all the complexity that comes with languages. So just be mindful of that, but this is certainly a good place to get started with. So that all said, if you haven't destroyed the like button already, make sure to do so for the YouTube algorithm, helps out the videos and the channel at large. Comment down below if you guys translate your apps, if you found this helpful, interesting. What are your thoughts on translations? If you do translate, what languages do you focus on? All that good stuff. So thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video.